Are you certain that you must leave us so soon? Lord Commander asked him. Past certain, Lord Mormont, Tyrone replied. My brother Jamie will be wondering what has become of me. He may decide that you have convinced me to take the black. Would that I could. Mormont picked up a crop claw and cracked it into his fist. He was old. Old as he was, Lord Commander still had the strength of a bear. You are a cunning man, Tyrone. We have need of your men short on the wall. Tyrone grinned. Then I shall scour the 7 kingdoms for dwarves and sip them all to you, roared Mormont as they laughed. They sucked meat from the crab leg and reached for another. The crabs have arrived by each watch only this morning, packed in a barrel of snow. They were succulent. Sir Alistair Throne was the only man at the table who did not much so much as crack a smile. Lannister mocks us. Only you, Sir Alistair, Tyrone said. This time the laughter around the table had a nervous, uncertain quality to it. Theon's black eyes fixed on Tyrone's with a loathing. You have a bold tongue for someone who is less than half a man. Perhaps you and I should visit the yard together. Why? asked Tyrone. The crabs are here. Remarked by the remark brought more guffaw than from the others. Sir Alistair stood up in his mouth at a tight line. Come and make your dips with the steel in your hand. Tyrone looked patiently at the right of his hand. Why, I have steel in my hand. Why, I have steel in my hand, Sir Alistair, although it appears to be a crab fork. Shall we do it? He hopped up onto the chair and began to poke at Tyrone's chest with a tiny fork. Words of laughter filled the tower rooms. Bit of crab flew from Lord Commander's mouth, and he began to gasp and choke. Even his raven joined in, cawing loudly at above the window. Duel, duel, duel! Sir Alistair Throne walked from the room so stiffly that as though he had a dagger up his butt. Mormont was still gasping for breath. Tyrone pounded him on the back. To the victor goes the spoils. He called out. I claim Tyrone's share of the crabs. Finally, Lord Commander recovered himself. You are a wicked man to provoke our Sir Alistair, so he scolded. Tyrone seated himself and took a sip of wine. If a man paints a target on his chest, he should expect that sooner or later that someone will lose an arrow at him. I have seen dead men with more humour than your Sir Alistair. Not so, objected the Lord Steward. Bowen Marsh, a man as round and red as a pomegranate. You ought to hear the droll names he gives the lads he trains. Tyrone had heard a few of those droll names. I'll wager that the lads have a few names for him as well, he said. Chip off the ice off your eyes, my good lord. Sir Alistair Tyrone should be mocking out your stables, not drilling your young warriors. The watch has no shortage of stable boys, Lord Mormont grumbled. That seems to be all that they have to send these days. Stable boys and sneak thieves and reapers. Sir Alistair is a tone knight, one of few to take the black since I have been Lord Commander. He fought bravely at the King's Landing. On the wrong side, Sir Jeremiah Rackard commented dryly. I had to know. I was there on the battlements beside him. Twain Lannister gave us a splendid choice. Take the black and see our heads on spikes before evenfall. No offence intended, Tyrone. None taken, Sir Jeremy. My father is a very kind folk and fond of spiked heads, especially those of people who have annoyed him in some fashion, and a face as noble as yours. Well, no doubt he saw you decorating the city wall above the King's Gate. I think you would have looked very striking up there. Thank you, Sir Jeremy replied, with a Sandoric smile. Lord Commander Mormont cleared his throat. Sometimes I fear Sir Alistair saw the true Tyrone. Do you mock us and our noble purpose here? Tyrone shrugged. We all need to be mocked from time to time, Lord Mormont. Least we start to take ourselves too seriously. More wine, please. He held up his cup. As Rackerer filled it for him, Bellowa Marsh said, "You have a great thirst for a small man." "Oh, I think that Lord Tyrone is quite a large man," Master Aemon said from afar at the end of the table. He spoke softly, yet the high officers of the Night's Watch all felt quiet, the better to hear what their accent had said. "I think all he is a giant come among us, here at the end of the world." Tyrone answered gently, "I've been called many things, my lords, but giant is solemnly not one of them." "Nonetheless," Master Aemon said with his clouded, milky white eyes moved from Tyrone's face, "I think it is true." For once Tyrone Lannister found himself at a loss for words. He could only bow his head politely and say, "You are too kind, Master Aemon." The blind man smiled. He was a tiny thing, wrinkled and hairless, shrunken beneath the weight of 100 years, so his men's collar with the links of a many metal hung loose about his throat. "I have been called many things, my lord," he said, "but kind is solemnly one of them." This time Tyrone himself led the laughter. Much later, when the serious business of eating was done, and the others had left, Mormont offered Tyrone a chair beside the fire and a cup of mulled spirits so strong they brought tears to his eyes. The king's drug could be powerless this far north, and the king matter told him as they were drink. "I have Jayak and Morik," Tyrone said, "and Yurn is riding south again. Yurn is only one man. The watch shall escort you as far as Winterfell." Mormont announced in a tone that broke no argument. 3 men should be sufficed." "If you insist, my lord," Tyrone said, "you might send young Snow. He would be glad for a chance to see his brother." Mormont frowned through his thick grey beard. "Snow? Oh, the struck bastard? I think not. The young ones need to forget their lives they have left behind them. Their brothers and mothers and all that. A visit home would only stir up feelings best left alone. I know these things. My own blood kin. My sister Mage rules Bear's Island now. Since my son dishonored, I have nieces I have never seen. He took a swallow. Besides, Jon Snow is only a boy. You shall have 3 strong words to keep you safe now. I am touched by your concern, Lord Mormont. The strong drink was making Tyrone light-headed, but not so drunk that he did not realize that the old bear wanted something from him. I hope I can repay your kindness." "You can," Mormont said bluntly. "Your sister sits beside the king. Your brother is a great knight, and your father is the most powerful lord in all 7 kingdoms. Speak to them for us. Tell them of our need here. You have seen for yourself, my lord. The Night's Watch is dying. Our strength is less than 1,000 now. 600 here and 200 in the Shadow Tower. Even fewer in the East Watch, and the scant third of those attack come. I have 3 men to defend each mile of the wall." 3 and a third, Tyrone said with a yawn. Mormont scarcely seemed to hear him. The old man warmed his hands before the fire. "I sent Benjen Stark to search after Yard Ridgway's son, lost in his first rampage. Royce Boy was as green as summer grass, yet he insisted on the honor of his own command, saying it was his due as a knight. I did not wish to offend his lord father, so I yielded. I sent him out with 2 men I deemed as good as any of the watch. More fool I." "Fool," the raven greeted. Agreed. Tyrone glanced up and the bird peers down at him as if the beaky black eyes ruffled its wing. Fool! It called out again. Doubtless the old Mormont would take it in a miss if he throttled the creature. A pity. Lord Commander took no notice of the irritating bird. Gerard was near as old as I am, and longer on the wall. He went on, yet it would seem he foresaw himself and fled. I shall never believe it. Not of him, but Lord Allard sent me his ahead from Winterfell. Of Royce there is no word. One deserter and 2 men lost. And now Benjamin Stark too has gone missing. He sighed deeply. Who might send a researcher after him? In 2 years I will be 70, too old and too weary for the burden I bear. Yet if I set it down, who will pick it up? Alistair Thorne? Bowen Marsh? I would have to be as blind as Master Aemon not to see what they are. The Night's Watch has become an army of sullen boys and tired old men. Apart from the men at my table tonight, I perhaps have 20 who can read, and fewer who can think, or plan, or deed. Once the watch spent its summers built, and each Lord Commander raised the wall higher than he found it, and now it is all we can do to stay alive. He was in a deadly earnest. Tyrone realized. He had felt faintly embarrassed for the old man. Lord Mormont had spent a good part of his life on the wall, and he needed to believe in those years were to have any meaning. I promised the king, you will hear of your need, Tyrone said gravely, and I will speak to my father and brother Jaime as well. And he would. Tyrone Lannister was a good with his word. He left the rest unsaid. That King Robert would ignore him. Lord Twain would ask if he had taken leave in a sense, and Jaime would only laugh. You are a young man, Tyrone, Mormont said. How many winters have you seen? He shrugged. 8, 9, I misremember. And all of them short, as you say, my lord. He had been born in the dead of winter, a terrible cruel one that the master said had lasted near 3 years. But Tyrone's earliest memories were of spring. When I was a boy, it was said that the long summer always meant a long winter to come. This summer had lasted 9 years, Tyrone, and the 10th will be soon upon us. Think on that. When I was a boy, Tyrone replied, my witness told me that one day if men were good, and the gods would give him a world summer without an ending. Perhaps we've been better done with that. And the great summer is finally at hand, he grinned. The Lord Commander did not seem amused. You are not a fool enough to believe that, my lord. Already the days grew shorter, and there could be no mistake. Aemon has had letters from Citadel, and finding it in accord with his own. The end of the summer stares us in the face, Mormont. Mormont reached out and clutched Tyrone tightly on the hand. You must make them understand, I tell you. My lord, the darkness is coming, and there are wild things in the woods, direwolves and mammoths and snow bears, the size of archers. And I have seen darker shapes in my dreams. In your dreams, Tyrone echoed, thinking how badly he needed other strong drink. Mormont was deaf on the edge of his voice. The Forksire near the Night's Watch have glimpsed white walkers on the shore. This time Tyrone could not help but hold his tongue. The fish forks of Lannister Port often glimpsed merlings. Denies Mr. Mallister writes the Mormont that the mountain people are moving south, slipping past the Shadow Tower in a number greater than even before. They are running, my lord, but running from what? Lord Mormont moved to the window and stared out into the night. These are old bones, Lannister, but they have never felt a chill like this. Tell the king what I say, I pray you. Winter is coming, and when the long night falls, only the Night's Watch will stand between the realm and the darkness and the sweeps from the north. The gods will help us all if we are not ready. The gods help me if I do not get some sleep tonight. Your determined to the right of the first night light. Tyrone got to his feet, slipping from the vine and tired of the dark room of doom. Thank you for all the courtesies you have done, my lord Mormont. Tell them, Tyrone, tell them to make them believe, and that all things I need. He whistled, and his raven flew to him, perched on his shoulder. Mormont smiled and gave the bird corn from his pocket, and that was how Tyrone left him. It was a bitter cold outside, bundled thickly in his furs. Tyrone Lannister pulled up his gloves and nodded to the poor frozen wenches standing sentry outside the chambers' keep. He set off across the yard in his own chambers to the king's tower, and walking briskly on his legs. Good manage. Patches of snow crushed beneath his feet, and his boots broke the night's crust, and his breath steamed before him like a banner. He shoved his hands into his armpits and walked faster, praying that Mercury had remembered to warm his bed with hot bricks from a fire. Behind the king's tower, the wall glimmered at the light of the moon, immense and mysterious. Tyrone stopped for a moment and looked up at it. His legs ached from the cold and haste. Suddenly a strange madness took hold of him, yearning to one look more off the end of the world. It would be his last chance, he thought. Tomorrow he would ride south, and he could not imagine why he would ever want to return to this frozen desolation. The king's landing was before him, and he was promised the warmth of a soft bed, yet Tyrone found himself walking past it, toward the veiled past the of the wall. The wooden stair ascended from the south face to anchors on a huge rough-hewn beams sunk deep into the ice and froze in place. Back and forth it switched, clawing out its way up toward the crook and a bolt of lightning. The Black Brothers assured him that they were much longer than it looked, but Tyrone's legs were cramping too badly for him, and even contemplate the ascent. He went and tied to the iron cage beside the wall, clambered inside, and yanked hard on the bell rope. 3 quick pulls, and he had to wait to see the eternity standing there inside the bars, with the wall to his back. Long enough for Tyrone to begin to wonder why he was doing this. He had just about decided to forget his sudden whim and go to bed in his cage and have a jerk, and began to ascend. He moved upwardly slowly by fit and started at first, the more smooth, and the ground felt beneath his feet, and the cage swung. Tyrone wrapped his hands around the iron bars. He could feel the cold metal even through his gloves. Mormont had fire burning in his room, noted with approval. But Lord Mormont's tower was dark. The old bear had more sense than he did, it seemed. Then he was above the tower, still inching his way upward. Castle Black lay below, the edge in the moonlight. He could see the house stark and empty away all from up here. Windowless keeps, crumbling wall, courtyard struck from the broken stone, further off. Here often seemed the light of Morristown and the little village half a league south along the King's Road, and here and there the bright glitter of the moonlight on the water, where icy streams descended from the mountain's heights to cut across the plains, and the rest of the world was bleak emptiness of window-swept hills and rocky fields spotted in the snow. Finally, a thick voice behind him said, "Seven hells, it's the dwarf!" And the cage jerked into a sudden stop, and a hare swung there, and hung there, swinging slowly back and forth and ropes creeping. Bring him in, damn it!" There was a grunt and a loud groaning of the wood as the cage slid sideways and the walls was beneath him. Tyrone waited until this swinging had stopped before he pushed open the cage door and hopped down onto the ice. A heavy figure in black was leaning on the wench, while the second held the cage with a gloved hand. Their faces were muffled in woven woolen scarves so that their eyes showed that they were plump with the layers of wool and leather, black on black. "And what will you be wanting this time at night?" the one by the winch asked. "At last look." The man exhausted several gazes. "Look or you want," the other one said. "Just have a care you don't fall off, little man. The old bear would have our hides." A small wooden shack underneath the great crane, and Tyrone saw a dull glow of braziers and felt the brief gust of warmth when the winchman opened the door and went back inside, and then he went alone. It was bitterly cold up here, and the wind pulled at his cloak like an indistant lover. The top of the wall was wider than the king's road often was, so Tyrone had no fear of falling, although the foot was slicker than he had liked, and the brothers spread crushed stone across the walkway, but the height of the countless footsteps wet and melted the wall beneath, so the ice would seem to grow around the gravel, swallowing it, until the path was bare again, and it was time to crush more stone. Still, it was nothing that Tyrone could not manage. He looked off the east and west, at the wall stretching before him, and the vast white road had no beginning and no end, the dark abyss on either side. West, he decided. For no special reason, he began to walk that way, following the path nearest to the north edge, where the gravel looked freshest. He bare his cheeks and ruddy with cold. His legs complained more loudly than with every step, but Tyrone ignored them. The wind whirled around him, gave clutches beneath the boots, while the head of white ribbon followed the line to the hills, rising higher and higher until it was lost beyond the western horizon. He passed a massive catapult at the as tall as the city wall. Its base sunk deep into the wall. The throwing arm had been taken off for repairs and then forgotten. It lay there like a broken toy, half embedded in ice. On the far side of the catapult, a muffled voice called out to challenge. "Who guards there? Halt!" Tyrone stopped. "If I halt too long, I'll freeze in place, John," he said as a shaggy pale shadow slid toward him silently and stiffed in his fur. "Hello, ghost." John Snow moved closer. He looked bigger and heavier in the layers of fur and leather. The hood of his cloak pulled down over his face. "Now, Lester," he said, yanking loose the scarf to uncover his mouth, "this is the last place I expected to see you." He carried a heavy spear tipped in iron, taller than he was, and a sword swung at his side in leather sheath. Across his chest was a gleaming black war horn, banded with silver. This is the last place I would have expected to be seen," Tyrone admitted. "I was captured by a whim. If I touch Ghost, will he chew my hand off?" "No, with me here," he promised. Tyrone scratched the white wolf behind the ears, and the red eyes watched him impassively. The beast came up and high on his chest now. Another year, and Tyrone Lannister would be gleaming feeling to look up at him. "What are you doing here up here tonight?" he asked, "besides freezing your manhood off?" "I have done night guard," John said. Again, Sir Alistair was kindly arranged for the watch commander to take place. Especially interested me. He seems to think that if they keep me awake half the night, I'll fall asleep during the morning drill. So far I've disappointed him." Tyrone grinned. "And has Ghost learned to juggle yet?" "No," John said, smiling, "but Grin has his own against Halder this morning, and Pip is no longer dropping his sword quite so often as he did." Pippa is his real name. The small boy with large ears. He saw me working with Grin and asked for help. Throne had never even shown him a proper way to grip a sword. He turned to look north. "I have a mile of wall to guard. Will you walk with me?" "If you walk slowly," Tyrone said. "The watch commander tells me I must walk, to keep my blood from freezing, but he never said how fast." They walked, with Ghost pacing along beside John, like a white shadow. "I'll leave on the morrow," Tyrone said. "I know," John said, strangely sad. I have planned to stop at Winterfell on the way for south. Is there any messages that you would like me to deliver? Tell Robb that I'm going to command the Night's Watch and keep him safe, so he might as well take up needlework with the girls and have Meekin melt down his sword for horseshoes. Your brother is bigger than me, Tyrone said with a laugh. I decline to deliver any message that might get me killed. Rickon will ask me when I'm coming home. Try to explain him that I've gone, if you can. Tell him he can have all my things while I'm away. He'll like that. People seem to be asking a great deal of him today, Tyrone Lannister thought. You could put all this in a letter, you know. Rickon can't read. Bran, he stopped suddenly. You all know what message to send Bran. Help him, Tyrone. What help could I give him? I am no master to ease his pains. I have no spells to give him his legs back. His legs. You give me help when I needed it, Jon Snow said. I gave you nothing, Tyrone said. Words. Then give him words. Then give your words to Bran too. You're asking a lame man to teach a cripple how to dance, Tyrone said. However sincere the lesson, the result is likely to be grapque. Still, I know what it is to love a brother, Lord Snow. I will give Bran whatever small help is in my power. Thank you, my lord. Thank you, my lord of Lannister. He pulled off his glove and offered him a bare hand. Friend. Tyrone found himself oddly touched. Most of the king of bastards, he said with his weird smile, but you are the first I have ever had to friend. He said, pulled the glove off with his teeth and grasped Snow by the hand. Flesh against flesh. The boy's grip was firm and strong. When he had donned over his glove again, Jon Snow turned abruptly and walked to the low northern parapet. Beyond him the wall fell away sharply. Beyond him there was only darkness and the wild. Tyrion followed him side by side. They stood up on the edge of the wood, a mile to the north of the face of the wall. The thicket of the ironwood and the sentinel and the oak that had once grown there had been harvest centuries ago, to create a broad swan of the open ground through which no enemy could hope to pass unseen. Tyrone had heard that elsewhere along the wall between caves that there were places where the grey sentinels and the pale white weirwoods had taken root in the shadow of the wall itself. But Castle Black had too prodigious appetite for firewood, and here the fortress was still kept at bay by the axes of the Black brothers. It was never far, though. From up here, Tyrone could see it. The dark trees looming beyond the stretch from the open ground. It like a second wall built, parallel to the first, a wall of night. Few axes have ever swung in that. Blackwood, where even the moonlight could not penetrate the ancient tangle of the roots and thorns and grasping limbs. Out there the trees grew huge, and the ranger said that it seemed to abroad from and knew not men. It was small wonder the Night's Watch named it the Haunted Forest. As he stood there at the long night, at all the darkness, with no fires burning anywhere, but the wind blowing and the cold like the spear in his gut, Tyrone Lannister felt it as though he could almost believe that the talk of the others and the enemy in the night, his jokes of grumpkins and snorks, no longer seemed quite so droll. My uncle's out there, Jon Snow said softly, leaning onto his spear as he stared off into the darkness. The first night they sent me up here, I thought Uncle Benjamin would ride back tonight, and I'll see him first blow the horn. He never came though. Not that night, and not any night. Give him time, Tyrone said. Off the north, a wolf began to howl. Another voice picked up the call, and then another. Ghost cocked his head and listened. If he doesn't come back, Jon Snow promised, Ghost and I will go find him. He put his hand on the door. Direwolf's head. I believe you, Tyrone said. But what he thought it was, and who will go find you? He shivered.